drilled the deepest hole ever dug, reaching over 7 miles into the Earth. And after 30 years of digging, they lowered down a microphone and captured this sound. Now, many believed they had drilled into hell itself, and even some said a demon had escaped through the hole. But it turned out the recording had never actually happened. Instead, Christian TV networks cut together sounds from a horror movie and used it to try and prove that hell exists. If you flew a spaceship all the way to the edge of the universe, what would you find? Well, space might not actually end, but instead split into different universes, each with a different reality. Or you might find yourself back where you started, since space could actually exist in an infinite loop that curves in every direction. But it's possible that this is all just a simulation, created by a hyper-intelligent being. Reaching the edge would expose the limits of the program, hitting a wall of code that you could never break through. If a meteor hit the edge of the Earth, could it make the planet spin faster? Well, the Earth weighs 13 septillion pounds, meaning the meteor would have to be almost half the size of North America, and it would have to hit at exactly the right angle, clipping the Earth at the equator. This would transfer trillions of times more energy than the world's biggest nuclear bomb. And while it would theoretically speed up the Earth's spin, the impact would cause a shockwave that would travel across the globe, which would wipe out all life on Earth. If the Earth suddenly stopped spinning, you'd instantly be thrown east at over 1,000 miles an hour. This is because the force of the movement would keep working on the Earth's surface, making everything keep going at the same speed it was before. Anything not attached would go flying. Even oceans would shift with devastating force. And since the atmosphere would keep going too, powerful winds would blast across the planet. Without the spin, the Earth's magnetic field could collapse, and the planet would quickly fry, causing total extinction. Earth has an 8th continent, and its location might surprise you. You see, in 1895, a geologist suggested that New Zealand had a secret that we all overlooked. He claimed that the country was actually the top of a mountain range. He said the rest of the mountains were under the ocean. In the 1990s, satellites confirmed this was true. The full continent is almost as big as Australia. If you shot a super powerful gun, could the bullet go completely around the Earth? Well, to make a full loop, the bullet would need to travel at over 17,000 miles per hour. That's the same speed satellites use to stay in orbit. But the fastest bullets only travel around 3,000 miles per hour. And even if you managed to find a gun that could shoot the bullet that fast, it would burn up from the air resistance, meaning you would have to shoot it from space at just the right speed, essentially sending it into orbit. If you poured a bunch of Earths inside the sun, they say it can hold 1.3 million of them. But this calculation is actually wrong. You see, this figure is just taking the volume of each Earth to fill the sun, almost like a liquid. But that doesn't take into account that the Earth is a sphere, and that there would be space between each one. Now, if you factor in this packing density, instead of 1.3 million, it would actually only take about 960,000. If you drilled a hole all the way through the Earth and then accidentally fell in it, you would fall towards the Earth's core. As you passed the core, gravity would start slowing you down because it now pulls you back. You'd oscillate back and forth like a pendulum, reaching the surface on the opposite side of the Earth. The total journey through the Earth would take about 42 minutes. However, intense heat and pressure in the Earth's core would make survival impossible. The Earth spins around 1,000 miles per hour, but to us, it doesn't feel like it's moving at all. Why is this? I mean, shouldn't we be whipped around and hanging on for dear life? Well, think about when you're riding in a car. You can feel the car accelerating, and you can also feel it when it's braking. But you don't feel it when you're riding at a constant speed. This is because you can only feel motion if your speed changes. And because the Earth's speed doesn't change, you don't feel it moving. If the Earth spun faster than normal, would we be flung straight into space? Well, gravity is what keeps us stuck to the Earth. But as the planet spins, it does create a small amount of outward force, but nowhere near enough to launch you, since it takes an entire day for the Earth to totally rotate. But if Earth sped up until it rotated once every hour, this outward force would be stronger than the force of gravity. At that speed, you would technically weigh nothing, and you'd be shot off the planet and out into space. How big of a bomb would you need to completely destroy the Earth? Well, gravity is holding the Earth tightly together, with more energy than the sun puts out in an entire week. And a nuclear bomb wouldn't even come close to ripping that apart. You would have to build a bomb 2 miles wide and fill half of it with positive particles and the other half with negative particles. Then the impact would collide them against each other, and this would combine their energy, making an explosion big enough to blow the planet into dust. If all the rain from a storm combined together into a single drop, you would get a raindrop about the size of half a football field. As it fell from the clouds, it would speed up like a meteor, and when it finally hit the ground, its massive force would instantly vaporize your body, leaving nothing behind. Now, 50 of these drops would release the same energy as an atomic bomb, blasting a huge crater into the Earth. If the sun suddenly vanished, no one would know for 8 minutes because of how light travels. But after those 8 minutes, the sky would be completely black. Ocean currents, which depend on heat from the sun, would stop flowing entirely, and all of the wind on Earth would stop too, leaving everything still. Without the sun's warmth, temperatures would start dropping rapidly. Within a week, the average temperature would be below freezing. Earth, no longer held in orbit by the sun's gravity, would be flung into space, moving away at thousands of miles per hour.
Driving too far, I'd like to change my point of view. I feel so lonely, I'm waiting for you, but nothing ever happens, and I wonder how, I wonder why. Yesterday you told me about the blue, blue sky and all.